Hello, I'm Algernon Matthews, and today we will be discussing hammers and how to determine the best hammer for your job. I'm standing in my home that I'm building now, and I figured now would be the best time to discuss hammers, so let's get right into it. Hammers have a wide range of uses far beyond the hammer inside of a carpenter's tool belt used for hammering nails into lumber. The use of simple hammers date back around 33.3 million years ago. The first hammers were made without handles. In essence, they were just rocks used to smash and drive things. But later, stones were attached to sticks with strips of leather and began being used as hammers with handles about 30,000 years ago. The addition of the handle gave users better control and less accidents. The hammer became the primary tool for building, food, and protection. A traditional handheld hammer consists of a separate head with a handle, which can be fastened together by means of a special wedge made for that purpose, glue, or both. The two-piece design is often used to combine a dense metallic head to a non-metallic mechanical shock-absorbing handle. Many handles today are made out of wood or fiberglass. With so many different hammers, sizes, and types, it could be difficult to determine which hammer type would be appropriate for your specific project. Today, we're going to talk about what I consider the three basic needs for a hammer, which is constructing, deconstructing, and shaping. Construction is typically done by using the hammer to drive nails into the surface of a material with the hopes of fastening those materials together permanently. Deconstruction or demolishing is just the reverse of that, where you're going to break apart a structure or break materials up, such as concrete. The shaping of material happens in the case of forging, where a hammer might be used to forge, or even in sculpting, or in conjunction with other tools such as chisels or vices used to shape stone or wood. Most hammers can be used for the purpose of constructing. When thinking about building with materials, rough carpentry and finished carpentry comes to mind. Rough carpentry is more concerned with building without the aspect or concern of what the materials look like when they're finished. Framing a house such as this one, for example, if you can see around, you see a bunch of studs. There's no real concern for how the material looks before it's finished, because most of these materials are going to be covered up with sheetrock, and they're going to be covered up by painting and other means of covering up the material or the rough material. And then also, after that, what we have is finished carpentry, where when you're dealing with finished carpentry, much of the materials are expensive, such as oak, high-end material, oak or maple or cherry, for example. And it's going to be sanded and made to look visually appealing upon completion. Where when you're shaping and contouring materials, we're going to be talking about, I think I already talked about that. Moving forward. As a tool, hammers are used to construct, demolish, or contour material in the various shapes. But it also can be used as a weapon. But we're not going to be discussing that for the purpose of this video. Claw hammers, which I have a few of them here. These are your standard claw hammers. One has a curved claw and the other one has a straight claw. They have two different purposes. The curved is more for where you can kind of have more leverage to pulling your nails. And the straight you can kind of use as a chisel. You can kind of multi-purpose with the straight handled claw. But a claw hammer, they're typically smaller than, they're normally between 16 and 24 ounces. This one is a 16-ounce hammer. And this is going to be the most commonly used hammer when you're dealing with rough carpentry. A claw hammer has two sides, one with a flat side, a flat face, made for striking nails and other materials. And this other side has a claw on it, and that claw is going to be used for pulling nails and various uses that you might find useful when you're working on a construction site. What you're going to find is that a hammer smaller than this 16-ounce hammer is not going to generate enough force when you're trying to drive fasteners or nails. And so what will happen is it will tend to bend the larger nails before they're completely driven in the surface, and you'll end up having to pull it out. And the heavier hammers, they're going to be a lot heavier to swing and maneuver in certain places, and they're going to be a high risk, especially in finished carpentry, to miss and mark and mar your materials up. And you don't want to do that when it's really expensive materials that you're working with. You don't want to leave hickeys and marks inside your material. Which brings us to our next topic, is going to be rubber mallets and dead blow hammers, which I do not have any to show you, but just imagine this hammer right here with a large rubber head and it's flat on both sides. Dead blow hammers are normally the same way, but a lot of them are filled with sand, and they soften the hit when you're hitting on a material. And so what they're able to do is, with the rubber mallets and dead blow hammers, they're designed to be able to strike a material with force, but at the same time protecting that same material from being damaged by the actual blow of the hammer. There's going to be times when you're going to need to create a force on a surface, and you really want to keep it protected. For instance, you might have a dent in an automobile, and it may not be so severe that it can't be knocked out, and so you want to strike the dent out, but you don't want to hit it with such force that you knock chip paint or you cause further damage. And in that instance, you might use a dead blow hammer. Larger hammers over 10 pounds can be used in multiple ways, because these type of hammers have so much weight and they generate so much force that they're able to drive larger stakes and spikes into the ground. Like, for instance, if I was working on a railroad and I might would need to drive a railroad spike into the ground, a sledgehammer would be the tool to use. Sledgehammer here. As you can see, this is a fairly nice size hammer. This head right here is about 10 pounds, I believe. But they normally come in about 10 pounds to about 20 pounds. And a lot of times you might see them on a job site where you might need to break up a small section of concrete or rocks or a driveway. Amongst all the hammers with the purpose of constructing and deconstruction, there are hammers that are also used to shape other materials, such as, where is my club hammer? Such as my club hammer. Now, the club hammers are smaller, lighter versions of the sledgehammer, which means they can generate a little bit more force than your regular claw hammers. And they're also typically used in conjunction with, I don't have any, but a chisel. If you know what a chisel is, you have your cold chisels and you have your wood chisels. And you will hold your chisel in your hand and you would strike the head or the back end of your chisel, and that would be used to kind of chisel out, shape. If you had a wood chisel, you could use it to shape wood, or if you had a cold chisel, you might use that to shape some stone or to sculpt with. Also, if you were trying to make a knife or sword or something like that, then you might would want to use A blacksmith hammer. The blacksmith hammer kind of looks like the last hammer that I put up, but it's a little different. It has the little pointed end on the back. And it's also used to forge. So it has to be heavy enough to hit and shape metals with the purpose of forging, but also durable enough to withstand the heat that metal has to be heated up to in order for it to be shaped. A lot of times if you see metal being shaped, you'll see that it's glowing red or it's really hot. And so you need a hammer that can kind of deal with that type of material that's too hot, and so you can kind of hit and forge your metals with it. One other hammer that I'm going to use to discuss today can also be used for constructing and deconstructing, and that is your regular hatchet. Your hatchet is going to be a tool that's most commonly used by tree loggers and those working cutting trees. It's typically a smaller version of a regular tree axe. And it's used to cut smaller limbs off the trees. You can remove brush and stubble with it. You can also use the back end to drive your tree felling wedges into your tree after you cut your tree and you're getting ready to knock it over. And so this is a good multi-purpose hammer type of tool. There is no specific science to choosing the correct hammer for the job, but this video is meant to be a useful guideline for choosing the best hammer for your purpose. There's going to be times where the only need is to be able to strike something with force, and any hammer will do the job. Still, there has been a hammer made for just about every purpose imaginable, and it can be useful having a specific hammer that was made for the purpose at hand. In conclusion, hammers are a useful tool. They have, and with so many types available, it may be difficult to find the right hammer that is suitable for your specific need. And having a basic understanding will assist you in deciding much easier. So which hammer is best to use? Well, that depends on your current need. Because if you're a judge, you might just need a gavel, which is in fact a small hammer used to gain the attention of the courtroom. This has been Algernon Matthews, and thank you for listening.